Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Quaver Podcast, the Quaver show where many different guests from all parts of the Quaver community gets interviewed. I am your host, Koshepen, and today we are very honored to have invited the person who started it all and made Quaver from zero, introducing Swan, the head developer of Quaver. So,
Yo, no, bro,
hello,
that's
Swan.
a crazy thing. That's not expected.
Really? That's probably the most normal intro that I've ever done in my entire life, really. I usually do a lot more crazy stuff, but oh well.
How many times did you practice that? There's no way.
I didn't really practice that at all, I just did it.
Oh, goddamn.
Well, well, anyways, actually, I have a little bit of question beforehand to ask you for the interview. How are you feeling when, like, what did you think? Like, what did you feel when I asked you about, like, how do you want to get an interview of, or like stuff like that? What did you like? What did you think?
Just about what, the interview?
Yeah, just like what's your thought when I asked you about the interview?
I was just like, all right, cool. Like, I didn't think.
Because, like, yeah, a lot of the people in the community thought you really just wouldn't accept the interview for whatever reason. Because they really didn't expect you to just take a hell yeah to that stuff.
Nobody asked me before, so it's just
Really?
like you're the first person.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm honored to be the first.
It's not like I don't want to. It's just nobody reached out.
Well, I guess that's the pain of being a head developer, right? So, first question of all, actually, let's just actually jump into the interview. So, first question of all is actually quite a popular question, I have to say, for the community, for Quaver, which is, why did you make Quaver? Like, you know, some inspiration and stuff. And this is also asked by Ferd on Twitter, not Twitter, on Reddit, for the Quaver subreddit. So, yeah, why did you make Quaver? Like, what's the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, so it's not some like crazy plan or anything. Like, we don't have a plan to take over the world. Yeah, that's what a lot of people thought. Like, it's not like that at all. So me and Staravia, I don't know if you know who Staravia is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he actually was the one who had the idea. So we were just talking on Discord one day, and somehow the conversation got towards game development, and he was like, "Yo, we should make a game," and I was like, "All right."
Well, that's casual.
I was like, "What kind of game?" And then he was like, maybe we should have our own VSRG with like a community, because we both played those at the time, right? So that's literally what it was. It was just a VSRG with a community. That was the idea. So no, we weren't thinking about trying to be better than any other game or take over the world or anything like that. It was literally, we just wanted to make a game. That's it.
So the birth of Quaver is really just in a VC and talking to Strafe. I can't.
It wasn't even in a voice chat. We were literally just typing.
Oh.
Yeah, we were typing.
So you were just talking to Strafe one day and just decided, you know what, fuck it, let's make a different game, and then Quaver is there.
Yeah, bro.
Just born. Wow. Okay. That was actually,
bro, that's how things happen with me. It's just like, all right, like, let's just do it.
Cool. Yeah, that's actually a lot more casual than I thought. Like, I like, originally I thought making Quaver was like a whole complicated process of like, getting players to play it, getting developers, and getting ideas and all that sort of stuff. I was like imagining like a whole like team project and that sort of stuff. It's really not. Oh.
No, it was literally us two, and then when we needed people to play it, we got people to play it. When we needed designers, we got designers. Like, it was legit just us two for probably about, I would say, a year. And then IA came in at some point, and then he started working on the website.
Right.
So that's kind of just how it happened.
So originally,
it was very casual.
So like originally, Quaver doesn't have a website because like I wasn't here. Is that what it was?
So we were just working on the game client at the time, but it I would say, like, so it was kind of like we were working on the client, and then the website just happened because he came in. So it wasn't like Quaver existed without a website. Like, it always had a website as long as it was released.
Right.
So,
okay. Right. I see. So yeah. That's actually a very, very interesting point there, because, as I said before, I've always imagined Quaver being like, actually, yeah. Is Quaver like your dream project or something? I also want to add a question. Is it like your dream project, or like did you just decided to fuck it, it's there now, like just that one day?
I would say over time it became that way. So like at first it was kind of like, all right, let's just do it. But then once I saw the game working and we kind of had a gameplay loop, things started to come together. Then I'm like, damn, like I could actually turn this into something if I really go crazy at it. So that's kind of how it happened. And then over time I just started to like really, really go hard at it for a few years and then release it.
Okay. I see. So yeah, here comes the second question. I can't speak for whatever reason. Here comes the second question. What's a fond memory you had when developing or moderating Quaver? So maybe like some incident happened, or maybe some scandals, or maybe something like that. Like, what's your most like memorable situations happening at that time?
I don't think we have any scandals. Not yet. But,
Not yet. Oh Lord.
Not yet. But I would say probably releasing the open beta. I don't know if you were there. Were you there?
No. I joined
July
when early access happened on Steam.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Like when did you join the day of? I'm talking about the day of.
No, I think I joined like a week after the early access happened on Quaver.
Okay, well you're very lucky because the day of it was crazy, bro. I would say it was probably the best day of my life, but also the worst day.
Why? Right? What happened?
Because I mean, it was the best day because it's like, bro, like I worked on this thing for a few years and then I released it, right? And there's so many people that are hyped to play it, right? A lot of people were interested in what we were doing. But on the other side, it was like, bro, it was so overwhelming. Like the amount of traffic to our servers was just, it was not good. Like the entire, like everything just died, bro. It died for like a whole day. And,
really?
and me and I were we were sitting there trying to fix it for the whole day.
Right.
I honestly didn't eat that day. Like
it
was bad. It was bad.
Damn.
It was bad. But yeah, it was good though, because it was like, bro, you can probably find some videos if you go back. People recorded it. Like it was like spammy. It was really bad.
Spammy?
Like yeah, like people were flooding the chat because they were so excited.
Right.
So that's why it was cool. But it was a little bit overwhelming because I was not expecting that.
Yeah, it's just the overall like expectation of like which is it's starting off small, and in reality like it's just a sudden influx of like players from all around.
I think it was like in 24 hours we had like over, I think it was like 10K users in 24 hours.
10,000.
And that's like,
wow.
Yeah, and this is and we don't ever like market. So I've never marketed this game. I don't like, the most I would do is like post on Twitter. Right. I don't like, there was no marketing budget. There was nothing like that. It was just word of mouth. So for there to be 10,000 people all like flooding the server, it's like, I was not expecting that.
That sounds quite an insane like situation to be in as like, an early access game.
Discord server.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's like our Discord server at the time, like in 2017, 2018, it was, I would say it was pretty dead, right? Nobody was talking. Like people would talk, but it wasn't like how it was now today.
Right, yeah.
So imagine it going from being completely dead to just like thousands of people talking at once, right? That's how it was.
That's sounds
how it was. It
insane.
Yeah. Like, after that, I had to take a little bit of a break because it was just bad.
Honestly,
I had to eat.
Yeah, I couldn't blame you, honestly. After all that, like, just the, like, I would say, just the overall pressure that probably went on to you when that many people immediately hopped on to Quaver when it's first released. So, couldn't blame you. Yeah. Next up, what, talking about community, right? Like, there's people you have met on Discord. Did you expect the Quaver community to grow this much when you first created Quaver? Maybe like in beta, or maybe when you released it on Steam, since it just grew past 700,000 players on 16th of July this year. So did you expect it to grow that much?
No and yes.
Oh.
So I'll start with the yes, because the very first tweet that we had ever posted, our Twitter is like cleared off now, but when I had posted that initial tweet, it had it had thousands of likes. I think it was like
Ooh.
maybe 1 or 2 thousand likes. And then people just started, and a shit ton of impressions. I don't know if I could swear, but there was like a lot of
That's fine. That's
impressions as
fine.
well. So, so a lot of people were interested in what we were doing, and they joined our Discord server and they got involved and stuff like that. So I knew that there was interest there. However, I didn't know it was going to be like almost 1 million, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I did know that, as long as we put out a decent game, then people would play it. And also too, like, we kind of tapped into a market that wasn't tapped into before. So it's like, at the time there weren't, and still even to this day, I don't think there were any VSRGs like 4K and 7K games or community driven Windows, Mac, Linux on Steam. Right? They're just, I don't think there are any other than us. Still to this day. Maybe there's a couple. I don't know. But at the time, there were no games like this. So it's like when you search up free rhythm games, we're like the number one sort of result. So and even then, we still, just based off of Steam listings, we still get about maybe 200 to 300 new users a day, just because we're so highly listed.
Right.
So yeah.
What about the no part though? What about like why you didn't expect to, like, can you like, talk more into why you didn't expect it to grow this much?
Well, one, because it's a risk, right? Like, you work on something and you could release it and nobody could care, right? You could just, I'm sure you posted a YouTube video at some point and just nobody watched it.
Yeah, always happens.
But yeah, it's like, bro, there's always that risk. And also too, like, a little bit after release, I kind of like took a break here and there. So it's like, I wasn't really putting too much work into it. I would, drop updates here and there. But overall, I was just focusing on other things. But surprisingly, it still grew throughout this whole time, which I don't know how. I honestly don't know how. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I would say like the reason why Quaver grew so much is probably because of the community. Probably, like, I feel like the community itself was probably one of Quaver's biggest like traction. I feel like it's purely because of Quaver, having a more friendly and a more accepting community than others, and probably because it's a small community where everything happens in one singular spot, which is, I feel like, a lot of people in the VSRG community wants, where they can just chat about
like the Discord.
Yeah, like the Discord, yeah, where people can just chat about anything they want and make friends, interact with the community, especially in a small community, not as big as some big rhythm games like, I don't know, like Osu or like any other rhythm games that has a huge community. Quaver, like, in comparison, is a smaller one, but it's also a lot more like there's a lot more action going on in terms of like community interaction. So I feel like that's probably the most like attractive point, I feel like, for the Quaver community and just Quaver itself, I feel like. Yeah.
Yeah, and you gotta think too, like, the Discord server, it doesn't have, like, that doesn't represent the entire community, right? So it's like there's 700,000 registered users. However, and there's people who play that don't even know that the Discord exists. Like, we don't advertise it in a lot of places, so it's like 700,000 compared to, like, I think it's 10,000 that are on the Discord. So it's like, if we advertised it a little bit more, then it would probably get crazy.
Actually, yeah, I would like to add on to the question. Why did you like? I see a lot of different events going on in Quaver, especially for, like, I don't know. QOT is one that you advertise, yeah, but a lot of things that you don't really advertise much to the community. Maybe for some like development stuff, or maybe there's some kind of events going on, but I don't really see you like talking much about it or like announcing or advertising it. So I just wanted to ask, like, why is that? Why did you advertise like a lot of different stuff that happened in Quaver?
So, I mean, as far as like QOT, right, you usually do that through blog posts, and blog posts actually have the highest amount of engagement. Like, there are thousands upon thousands of people that read that stuff.
That's actually unexpected. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. Right? But you got to think about visibility. Like, Steam provides us a lot of visibility. So, whenever news posts go out, it shows in a lot of places. So it'll show on your Steam library. It'll show on the Steam website, right? It shows in a lot of places, so people just naturally read it. I don't know why, I don't know how, but um, people do. So it does get advertised, but I make sure that it's not spammy, but it's also advertised through the right channels to where the most people will see it.
I see. Right.
So it's usually it's like Steam comes first, then the Discord, and Twitter doesn't really give us that much anything, so we don't even post there anymore.
Wow, I've always thought that the Twitter of Quaver probably give us the most attraction, because I feel like for a riffing game like Quaver, that's like mostly community. I thought it would like social media, since a lot of different people are on there, that would probably give you the most traction. But Steam being the biggest one is actually quite surprising, because I thought no one reads Steam blog posts really up until this point.
People do, well, surprisingly.
Well, that's something I learned. Well, speaking of learning, let's try a new transition. Speaking of learning, well, I've actually been learning about different game modes and rhythm games, and we have a question about that. Any plans on creating new game modes for Quaver? Maybe for I've seen like blog posts for like competitive versuses, or maybe some clan stuff. Are there any plans for like revamping different aspect of Quaver, or maybe some like editor improvements, maybe some multiplayer stuff, or heck, even single player or jukebox if people actually uses that?
Yeah, so people do use the jukebox. They like spam for a long time to get me to add it back. But as far as like new game modes, so clans, it is like confirmed, like that is coming out, and we're actually in the process of revamping pretty much the entire game. So, and we're doing it from back to front. So the back end comes first, like all of our back end servers. So the multiplayer server, so like when you log into the game, that's the server that you connect to. We rewrote that last year. Our API, which we just released literally probably like 3 days ago.
Yeah, 3 days ago.
And now we're working on the front end, which is the website and the game client. So the website's coming next, and with that will come more features. So clans is one of them. However, there won't be a ranking system just yet. So you'll be able to create and manage your clans. You'll be able to invite players to it and sort of like have your clan profile. However, a ranking system will come later as it gets sort of wired into the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So it's more of just like things will come online as they're ready. But clans is probably like one of the things that's going to happen. As far as other game modes, I don't know if you know this, but there's been a pull request that's been opened by Warp, and he added 1 to 10K. So you'll be able to play from 1 to take 1 and all the way up to 10K in the game. However, there won't be a ranking system for that, probably ever. Probably ever. However, you will be able to upload maps and share them as well, and sort of search by them. So it'll be playable. It just won't be rankable. But if you are a donator of the game, you'll still be able to see each other's scores.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I see.
So the reason for that is just one, the difficulty calculation.
That's gonna be tough.
And two, like to get maps ranked, we don't have enough supervisors for that would be able to support every game mode. So it's just keep it to 4 and 7K for now. Things evolve and we can always make it rankable, right? Like that's something we can always do. But for right now, that's it's just gonna be like that.
Yeah, because I've always seen a lot of. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Go on. Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna talk about competitive, but you can
yeah. Actually, yeah. Talking about competitive, I've always heard like a lot of different voices, especially from the Mania community, that really wanted like more of an Edo system or like a competitive actual stage. Yeah, I was actually just a bit curious about like how that would work, or if there's any like development into that aspect of Quaver.
So in the original design of the game, that's kind of what I wanted the direction to go in. However, the reason why it hasn't come out yet is because the current client, as it is, it's not as stable as I want it to be, right? So there's some crashing here and there. There's a lot of bugs and things like that, and they're very like low level bugs. So it's kind of hard to track and kind of hard to fix. So to add something that's as critical as a ranking system, that's also real time. So let's say you're playing and you're actually winning, and then your game crashes, right? Like, you're kind of fucked, right? As far as your rank goes, you're fucked, right? So we don't want to add, I don't want to add a feature that big if the foundation isn't stable, if that makes sense. So, with the revamp of the game that we're doing, that's something that we definitely would be able to do in the future, and something I still want to do. But it wasn't the right time.
Right, I see. So does that mean that if Quaver version 2 were to come out, like we could expect more of these like different features or the like different game modes will be added onto Quaver? Because I've heard like it'll become more stable, that's for sure, and it'll be a lot more accessible for like adding on to new different game modes and stuff.
It will be possible. It'll be more possible than ever.
Right, I see.
I don't want to confirm anything, right? Because that kind of like puts me in a position where I have to do it.
Yeah.
So like I said, Clans was coming out. I said that probably 2 years ago. It's gonna come out, right? Like, I stick to my word, so I don't want to promise anything if things change.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of different clan people that always thought that the clan system in Quaver would be like the silk song of Quaver, where it would just never comes out even if it's promised. I can see why you don't like promising stuff now. It's just a lot of pressure, I feel like, would be put on you.
It's not even about pressure. It's just I'm somebody who likes to keep my word. So it's like when I say I'm going to do something, I want to do it. And I don't want to lie to anybody. That's the most important part. So it's just I'm the type of person where it's like when it's ready, it'll be dropped.
I see. Right.
I don't like hyping things up too much.
Yeah, I guess that's a good thing. For like, just in case something goes wrong, then there won't be any promises or like confirmed stuff.
Yeah, and it's like you kind of set the expectation, right? And it's like when you start hyping things up because people are like, "Wow, this is so great!" The expectations are through the roof, and if it doesn't meet those expectations, then it's like it's bad.
Yeah.
So I'd rather set the bar low and then exceed whatever those low expectations are. That's the way that I typically go about things.
I see. Well, with that out of the way, let's get into some juicy stuff about Quaver. It comes to community related questions. So first of all, I'm actually very, very interested about this because I can laugh at the person. Just kidding. But who gave you the biggest and strongest first impression when they joined Quaver? That is either as a staff or as a developer or maybe just a player. Who gave you the biggest first impression when they joined Quaver?
So I'll give you developer and player. Developer, I would say Yalter. So when it comes to more like low level, close to the hardware type programming, so like either graphics programming or things like Linux, I don't know anything about that, right? I really don't. So Yalter, he's been like a huge help. So I think he joined probably in like 2019. Linux actually was not working whatsoever, and he had taken a look at the source code and he got it working in probably like a day. So I was like, damn, like this dude's smart, so definitely Yalter from a developer's standpoint. Dude's just incredibly smart. From a player, I would say, it's kind of a cop-out answer, but I would say the number one player, his name Reshiram, I think.
Yeah, Reshiram.
And the reason is just because of how he plays, right? It's like he logs in probably once every 3 to 4 months, shits out probably like 100 scores, and then he just leaves.
Wow, yeah.
And somehow he's able to stay number one throughout all that.
Yeah, he's just a goofy guy, I'd say. He just does whatever he wants.
But I recently checked the leaderboards, and there are a couple more people who have over 1,000 rating. I don't think they're close because like 1,000 to like I think he has like 1,040. It's probably not even close, but people are starting to catch up, man.
Yeah. But I would say Reshi's number one will probably stay on for at least a more while, simply because of how big the gap between number one and number two right now is. If I remember correctly, it's still like around like 25 overall rating or something like that, which takes a lot of ratings,
Yeah,
especially.
I'm sure
Yeah.
that high it takes a long time.
Yeah, but the fact that Reshiram is like, I feel like the reason why Reshiram has been number one for so long is because what he's good at is what the Quaver calculation loves. Like the Quaver diff calc loves L1 Cortex, and then also loves the L1 Handstream, especially density. And Reshiram is a beast in both of those patterns, so he's able to push out just so many insane scores throughout the years, which just made him able to keep his number one. I feel like he kept his number one for like over 4 years by now. Maybe got some interruption when more Quaver Farm got ranked, but like overall, I feel like he held it.
I think at some point there's a Chilean player. What's his name?
Miyuka.
He uses his name all the time.
Yeah, Miyuka. Or
yeah, he was number one for a while. But then they kind of just flipped off for a while.
Yeah, he focuses on Mania a lot more than Reshi, I feel like. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. If more high level players were to come, then there would probably be more competition at that level.
I see. So yeah, it makes sense for Reshiram to be the most recognized. I feel like Reshiram is probably the most recognized player throughout the entire community. I feel like simply because of his like skill. Talking about skill though, there's actually another different skill set which actually recently came to life, which is SV. This is also asked by Kusa on Twitter, also another developer of Quaver. What's your thought on the way scroll velocity, or as I said before, SV, is heading within the Quaver community? Your new effects, some unique style of gameplay, or just general difficulty in SV and that sort of stuff. What do you feel like it's like? How do you think the way they're going is?
I think it's cool, man. I think SV is probably the one thing that makes this game extremely unique. And surprisingly, right, like a lot of people don't know this, but the features that a lot of people use, like negative SV, that wasn't intentional, right? Like it wasn't intentional whatsoever. So Staravia, he actually built the gameplay mechanics, and I went in and started testing it, right? And I was just like, okay, what happens if I put a value of 0 for SV? And it stops, right? It just stops scrolling. And it's like, okay, what happens if I put a negative value? Then it scrolls upwards, right? Like it was never intentional.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this works. Let's just keep it. And, it's just like, okay, cool. Let's keep it. It works. But it was never intentional. But I do think it's really cool. And I don't know if you've seen like the animation stuff that William's been working on, but it's some really cool stuff. So William, he's a sort of contributor for the game. He's been contributing a lot of cool stuff. And one of the things, you can probably put this on screen too, like he's been building this sort of animation mod chart type system. So if you're somebody who knows how to code, you'll be able to sort of script the game to change different aspects about it and make some really cool effects. So SV and things like that are going to become way more interesting as time goes on. Probably in like 1.6 it should be dropping, so we're dropping 1.5 soon, and then 1.6.
I see. It's like, animation is actually quite a unique thing, I say, that comes to Quaver, simply because it's kind of not been done in a lot of different rhythm games. Like as I know, like Mania had storyboard, and I think some other games also had like mod charts. Like the fact
from like a ranked perspective, like I'm thinking about that too. So it's like having maps that are ranked, and that you'd be able to play as well, that incorporate that stuff.
Right. Having a
so it's like imagine
map.
So it's like imagine another tournament, right? Imagine the 2025 tournament would probably be insane if that stuff gets used.
Oh, I would imagine like having an animation map in QLT. I feel like a lot of people would be surprised if that actually got added into QLT and just official tournaments, simply because of how new the concept and the technology is for Quaver. I'd say that's pretty unique if that actually happened to be in a tournament. Yeah.
I bet it will at some point though.
But speaking of tournaments, your QLT, your ESVT, and other stuff, Swan, do you follow any of the tournaments in Quaver that's maybe happened or maybe it is happening right now?
So typically I follow QOT in like the later stages, right? So I typically don't pay attention or really watch the earlier stages just because, I don't know, I like watching high level gameplay, and plus, at the later stages there is money on the line, so it's just way more interesting to watch when it's the later stages. The other tournaments, not really. I don't think they're too advertised. So I don't even know the other tournament you mentioned. But if there are other tournaments, though, like, people should reach out to me because we can provide badges for those tournaments.
Okay.
Like I don't mind doing that as long as they create badges, and it's not like a weekend tournament. It's like like an actual tournament. We can provide support and badges for those. Like, I don't mind doing that.
Right. So I think ESVT, as I've probably said before, SVT stands for Everything is Scroll Velocity Tournament, and it's made by, I believe, Shrimple currently, which is the head of the ESV clan in Quaver. And they focus a lot on Quaver SV. So like the entire tournament is SV. All of the maps are just SV maps from Quaver. So that definitely is quite unique for a tournament. But they're also doing one this year, I believe, for, I don't know, I think after QLT. And I feel like if Shrimples were to just, get in touch with you, get some badges up, I feel like that would be pretty good for just Quaver tournaments in general, because of the amount of support that you can provide with different tournament hosts, I feel like.
Yeah, and bro, another thing too is, like, if it's a legit tournament, right? I don't mind hosting it, right? Like, announcing it to everybody. I don't mind doing that. But it's like, if the tournament is just sort of like half-assed, I don't want to push that out to people. I want to make sure it's like top quality. So that's typically why we only push QOT at the moment.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, the general public.
I've had that before, where somebody, they've they've given me badges, but I don't even think the tournament finished.
Oh, really?
They just kind of neglected it. Yeah.
Oh wait, is that
years ago?
Yeah, I think I remember seeing a few tournament posts on the Steam forums for Quaver. There was one that was just a Cyber tournament for SV and Quaver. But I don't think that finished, nor get any publicity, I think. And
I don't remember.
Yeah, and there was another one by Beat. I don't know if it's the same one. If it's the same Beat that's currently hosting the tournament. But I remember another Beat that hosted a Quaver tournament on Steam forums, which probably didn't end up end up finishing in the end. Yeah, that makes sense why you'd want to just announce good ones and high quality ones.
And that's kind of why we don't post too much, because it's like, when I do post, I want it to be like a certain level of quality. I don't want to just post bullshit,
Right, okay.
So it's more just quality over quantity.
Okay. That's a good aim for tournaments, really. And speaking of quality, though, there's a lot of different stuff that the community has been pushing at, as I've said before, tournaments and high quality tournaments, hopefully. But in general of the Quaver community, what do you want your community to keep on doing, or maybe like start doing? Maybe host some more tournaments, maybe make some more unique SP map, more content creation, and all that sort of stuff. What do you want your community to be like doing, maybe for the game or for the general well-being of Quaver?
Yeah, so of course tournaments, right? Like that's the big thing. I want to see more of those. I also want to see more different types of events. So maybe like contests, maybe mapping contests, skinning contests, right? Like just things to sort of get people more involved with each other, right? Because it's like that's one of the most difficult things to do in a rhythm game, because rhythm games are essentially single player games with just with social features. So it's like, how do you connect people together in essentially what is a single player game? So it's just coming up with events like that as a way to do that.
Right.
Content creation, like you said, is also a big thing. I want to see more content kind of like this, right? That's why I even agreed to do something like this, is because a lot of rhythm game content, it's just score posts, so it's just like Camellia Planet Shaper 99%. And it's like nobody's searching for that, bro. Like that's why they don't get that many views. So it's like, if you create content where the vast majority of people are searching for it and they're watching it, then that'll help you grow as a creator, but it also help the game grow as well. So it's kind of like a win-win. I think there was another creator, I can't remember his name, but he played like Eterna. Big creator. He had like tens of thousands of subscribers. Maybe you know it.
Yeah, it's an the Eterna player.
Yeah. But he made all sorts of different types of videos, right? That was like long form content. And he was racking up views, man, just racking up views on rhythm game content. And I've never seen that before. So it's like going in that direction, making it as general as possible, but also still driving traffic to whatever game you play. It doesn't have to be just Quaver. It can be any type of game, right? I just want to see more content like that.
Right. Yeah, I definitely should take some notes here for content creation. Yeah, I feel like a lot of different community-driven stuff tend to be more like involved with different players, because I feel like,
and that's the thing. So it's like, if you're score posting, right, and you're just posting your replays, the only way that people are really going to watch you or even find you is if you're a top player, right? So it's like, people are going to watch, you because you're a top player in the game, right? People are going to watch whoever's the top player in host, right? And they're going to get a ton of views just because they're the number one player or they're a top player. But as far as like content, like long form content, that's going to reach a way bigger audience. Just because it's more general.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. It's like, just get more publicity, I feel like, especially with community stuff.
It's not about just publicity. It's more about like reachability, because like I was saying, if you're score posting, think about it. Like, if you post a replay of Camellia Planet Shaper, think about how many people in the world are searching that. Right? Probably not many. But if you're saying, the best top 10 rhythm game players of all time or something like that, just really long form content like that, that's going to capture a way larger audience,
and probably introduce a lot more
rather
people
than
to
people
different
that
games
just
as
follow
well.
you.
Yeah.
Right. And that should be, I think, should be the goal of just content creation in general.
Gotcha.
Is to just reach that many people.
I see. Well, with the community stuff out of the way, how about some just different off-topic questions? Now, these are going to be just, funny, just silly little questions. And first of all, I believe a lot of people wanted to ask this for a long time now. Why is your name Swan, of all things?
Yeah. Honestly, it was random. Like, I wish I had a better story. I really wish I did. It was random. I'm not really good at naming things, so it's just the first thing that popped into my head.
Just a Swan.
So I went with it. Yeah. And then I started, trying to collect the name on every platform I could. So I have the name on, ASUS. I have it on GitHub. I have it on Quaver, obviously. Yeah. So I try to collect the OG name as
collect the Swan names.
Yeah. So I have it on a few platforms now.
Because I believe a lot of people, especially
I have it on Discord.
Oh yeah, you do. Like, it's actually crazy. Like, I thought, like, surely someone will have the name before you, because like Discord, refound the way you use names.
I got lucky because I'm a partner on Discord, so I got really lucky.
Oh right, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, because like I was sure that someone before you had to have the name and got the name before anyone got it. But
I probably would have had it. Because I did sign up for Discord in 2015, and they were kind of rolling it out based on your account age.
Yeah.
So I probably would have gotten it regardless. But I don't know.
That's a long time. It's wild to think that 2015 is like 9 years ago by now. No, it did not feel like that
I
long.
graduated high school in 2015.
Wow. Oh, leaking age?
I'm
Leaking age
27, bro. Like, I feel like people know that, or maybe they don't. I don't know.
Well, now you guys know Swan's 27 years old. Yeah. Like talking about like just in general of Quaver, right? You know, score settings, score posting. What do you think, like that you know of? What do you think is the most impressive play in the whole of like whatever Quaver players have been pumping out of? What do you think is the most impressive out of all of them?
You know, I really tried to get an answer for you, but I don't follow scores like at all. I don't. But I would say whatever my top score is, man. I think I have 140.
Oh.
140, and I think it's on my map too. So maybe it counts, maybe it doesn't.
Oh, is it Asher Infinity? The OG farm map?
I think it is. Yeah,
oh my god! Oh, that's such memories. Well, but, a 40 is pretty impressive in Quaver.
Scores, man. Yeah. So that's the best score I've ever gotten. If you disagree, I don't care. But it's impressive to me. So.
Do you think you can replicate it? Do you think you can replicate its score? Oh.
No, I can't. I haven't played in years. Probably like a couple years at this point.
You've been focusing on developing instead of like playing
other things too.
Right. Gotcha.
So I can't play nearly at the same level I was. I was like near alpha, honestly. Like clear 10th.
Damn.
Gazer 10.
Look, I was actually unexpected. I thought maybe like a game creator for Quaver like yourself that you wouldn't like follow Dan stuff and all that sort of stuff from Mania.
No, bro, I was a player. Like I played this game, bro. And as far as like alpha goes, I think at 96th or even 97th.
Wow.
Makiba, the speed one.
Damn. Okay.
I think it was Makiba, right? So I was already at the game, bro, at my peak, but slowly I stopped playing. And then yeah. I'm pretty bad now.
Well, now that you guys, this is quite a big discovery for the community. You all know that Swan himself is a Dan lover now, because like Dan gets a lot of hate and.
I wouldn't say all that.
Well, now that you know,
it is a good way to measure progress, though. I would say.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's just it gets a lot of hate for like.
You don't know how many times I've tried to clear 10th, but the first Jack map. What is it?
The Lost Dedicated, yeah, the Long Jacks.
I could not do that for the life of me.
I know.
So when I actually cleared it, I was like, bro, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of players that even like cleared alpha probably can't even play the 10th Dan Jack map because like just because of how disgusting it is.
Alpha's harder.
Really?
I don't think it is. I mean, no, the alpha's easier.
Oh yeah.
The Jack alpha's easier. I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's alpha after all. Yeah. Most impressive.
No, I did it backwards. That 10th was easier than alpha.
Yeah, no, definitely not. 10th is definitely harder than alpha.
Yeah.
The most impressive play, the now coined most impressive plays on the whole of Quaver is now Swan's 40 rated play on Infinite Asher. Probably top diff, if I remember correctly. That's the farm diff.
Yep, watch the replay, man. 30.06. I just checked.
Damn, alright. Yeah, that being said, that's all the questions that I have for you. But now, instead of me, it's the community that's gonna ask you the questions. Now, I've always wanted to ask, like, you know, just more general stuff, but considering it's the Quaver community, they're going to be looking for more in-depth answers, especially to the game itself. And the first one from the community, submitted by Wishing Ace on Twitter, what's your future plan for Quaver, and where are you going to take the game in terms of like competitive scene and updates and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, right now we're working on a complete revamp of the game. So the website, brand new website's coming out. It's being worked on right now by IA. And with that is going to come, you know, like clans, like I said, but it's also going to come with some ranking queue updates as well. Some other features that people have been asking for, like I just finished up a notification system So whenever your map gets modded or it gets ranked or actions are performed, you'll get notifications on the website. And eventually, when we revamp the entire game, those notifications will carry over in game as well.
Oh.
So it's really about just revamping the entire sort of client and website from the ground up, and just adding those things that people have wanted, and then they'll come online, as they're ready. So,
Right.
at the grand scheme of things, that's what's happening.
It's like I'm a little bit more interested about like taking the game into like the competitive scene. Maybe like I've heard a lot of people talking about like rhythm games not being able to success as an esport category simply because of like copyright strikes and just permissions in general. But do you have any plans for like taking Quaver in a more like bigger, wider audience, just like how Osu did with like in like real life events, in the competitive scene in general gameplays?
So I ideally, in a perfect world, I would want it to be like that. However, one, you kind of need a lot of players to do that. Two, it requires money, right? Like a lot of when it comes to esports, right? Hosting events is not a cheap thing, right? Like you're probably going to need a lot of money, a lot of sponsors, and that's something that we don't really have the bandwidth to do at the moment. Maybe in the future, if things grow more, then we'll have access to that type of stuff. But for right now, we don't really. And we kind of just stick to QOT. And with that, if this year you kind of noticed that we put out badges that you can buy. So next year the prize pool will most likely be larger than what it is this year and the previous years. So that's kind of something I want to start doing, is to just increase the amount of money that people are getting for playing in these tournaments.
Right.
So in hopes that the competitive scene will also evolve that way as well. It'll drive more people here.
To just get more attention for Quaver, especially in as you said, the competitive scene, like tournaments and matches stuff. Right, I see. Now,
right, so it's like, imagine this, right? Like imagine a world where we say, hey, we're hosting QOT $1,000 prize pool or $2,000 prize pool, right? Like imagine we get to that point. Like you're gonna have people from all different games that are gonna be playing Quaver, right? And then it's gonna evolve into something bigger, most likely.
Right, I see. So that's the final, like the plan for just QOT in general, just like slowly increasing the amount of attention that QOT itself would gather for Quaver, and to slowly push it into the competitive scene. Right, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah, but as far as like in real life events, it would be nice, but I don't think we have the bandwidth to do that.
Right. So if it does get to that point, then you probably want to like actually like if you get enough like funding and probably actually start receiving sponsor, would you like consider doing like real life events and stuff like that?
I mean, yeah, I'll be down. It's literally just a lack of funding. Because this game doesn't really make that much money. It's enough to keep the servers going. It's enough to push out prize pools for tournaments and just pay for like extra stuff that we need. But as far as doing anything on a large scale, like we don't have the funding to do that. So if we were to able to get things moving a little bit more and sort of like increase revenue, which is something I'm trying to do with the revamp as well. So it's like, I'll talk more about that like as it's ready. But the goal is to like increase revenue so that we can put it back into the game and do more interesting things.
Right, I see. Yeah, on to the second question here though. Submitted by RGZN. What's the reasoning behind creating the standard judgment window? Was it just to make a semi-unique judgment, or are there any other reasons for the numbers for the judgment windows?
So I think the standard judgment window is actually based off of OD7 from OS, but I think it's like slightly modified. And the reason for that was because we needed a single judgment window that was not too easy, but it wasn't too hard.
Right.
So it was kind of just in that middle ground position. So that's kind of where it came from, and it just kind of felt right when playtesting.
Right. Okay.
And it's like if we wanted to balance how hard the game was, then we just switch, how hard or easy the accuracy weighting is, and that's something we can do at any point, rather than changing the judgment windows. So it's like changing judgment windows is a way harder process technically, than just changing the way accuracy works.
Yeah,
because you'd have to run through every single replay to like see what the new score is, right?
Yeah.
If we were to do it the first way. So that's kind of how it is, just having one standard judgment that's not too easy but not too hard.
Because I feel like if you were to change the judgment window, it would probably make a lot of people who have already gotten used to the Quaver judgment window, or like kind of just die on new windows because just off the difference that like a different judgment window makes. So changing accuracy would probably be the best choice. I feel like. Yeah. Another question here though, probably slightly similar to the one that we have asked before, but submitted by Janshi, the moderator for the Quaver Discord server. When is the competitive and elo-based ranking system going to be implemented? That is according to a Quaver blog post.
Yeah, so as far as like a release date, like I said earlier, I don't do release dates until they're early, until it's finalized. I kind of just drop it when it's ready. But it's nowhere even close, right? Like we're working on revamp the website, the client, and then we'll be in a position where we can add those things. So I'm not going to give you a date or anything like that to get your hopes up, but it is something that I want to do. But we need a solid foundation to be able to do that in the first place. So that's what we're working on, is that foundation.
Right, gotcha. So yeah, on to the next question though. This is submitted by Wyvern. Are there any plans on improving the difficulty calculations on Quaver? That is like, adjusting farm map difficulty ratings, because we have seen a lot of different maps, especially a map in the QLT map pool right now, ongoing, the QLT map pool, which is a 50 difficulty LN density map, and that's the kind of maps that like people are complaining about. That's overrated for the difficulty calculation. So I was asking if there's any plans on improving just how the calculations on Quaver are done, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I want to improve it. However, working on difficulty calculations isn't really something that I'm experienced with, right? Like I didn't actually create the calculator myself. So Staravia was actually one who built the initial difficulty calculator, and obviously he's been gone for years at this point. So any updates that have happened to it over the years have been by the community. Creating a difficulty calculator or even adjusting the existing one is a very difficult task, right? Like this is something that people often underestimate, like just how difficult it is, right? It's like you're taking a map file and you're trying to judge by a computer how difficult it is, whatever that even means, right? Like I could think something is difficult, but to you it's easy, right? So it's like how do you even do that, So it's like I want to update it, and I don't mind updating it, but I'm pushing that towards somebody who wants to take over that, because that's just not something that I personally am experienced with, nor do I really have interest. And also another thing too is that for any changes, right, like I want it to be other than something substantial, rather than it just being let's nerf X or let's buff Y, because every time you change the calculator you have to recalculate every single score. So we're at we have tens and tens of millions of scores that we have to recalculate every single time. So, and that takes days, if not weeks, right? So I would want the changes to the calculator to be substantial, rather than just something simple.
Okay. Right. Yeah, because I've definitely heard, a lot of people wanting, the difficulty calculations to be changed, but then in the end they do not know how the difficulty calculation works.
How it works. Yeah, it's very complex, and it's something that I don't think anybody's been able to figure it out, across all rhythm games. there are some good solutions out there, but ultimately, I don't think anyone's has a perfect system, right? It's just not possible.
Like taking into account that the like rhythm games in general difficulty system, like difficulty in a lot of different games are very subjective to the exact players that are experiencing them. So definitely not a simple solution just as to like changing some values I can fix, but yeah, definitely something to look forward to, probably finding a solution for in the future when stuff are more stable, when you
keep talking about it recently in the development chat, though. We were talking about it recently. And there have been some talks about people wanting to take over that, but nothing confirmed. It's just something that was brought up. So
all right, makes sense. Now on to question 5, a little bit sillier one compared to the last 4 questions, submitted by our beloved head map puller for the QOT tournament this year, Cuxon. For Swan, do you actually own a Tesla?
No, I don't. I don't even know how that started. Maybe I said it once as like a joke, and then people just kind of ran with it. I honestly, I don't think I would ever buy one of those. Right, like the thought of being in a car that's powered by a computer and electricity, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Imagine you're driving on the highway, right, and you said a really bad tweet on Twitter, and Elon just decides to shut off your Tesla, right? Like, you just crash, right? Like, I don't want that to be a possibility. I'm good.
Right.
I'm chilling, but I gas is okay.
I mean, yeah, like there has been a lot of like different point of views to Tesla and the system they have. I feel like the joke of you owning a Tesla started as a like how in the donator Discord, like in the donator channel in the Discord server, the description for the channel is like something along the lines of like welcome Swan Tesla funders and that sort of stuff. I think it's there that people genuinely thought that you actually own a Tesla or are trying to buy it.
Nah, I don't own a Tesla, man. You gotta think bigger too, man. You gotta think bigger.
You gotta think bigger. You gotta look into the future.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. Alright, on to the next question though. Submitted by Contella, how long did it take to develop Quaver into a stable, playable game? And were there any issues with the development?
It took about 3 years. So we started in 2017, August 2017, and then we had released the open beta in 2020, July. So a little bit over 3 years or under. And as far as like issues with development, I would say for the most part it was pretty smooth. However, I did learn how to code by creating this game, right? So I wasn't previously experienced. I just kind of learned how to code by making the game, which is actually a really good way to learn. However, it's kind of why we have the problem that we have now, where it's like it's not as stable as I want it to be, right? Because we're working with 7-year-old code. Yeah. So it's like really we just want to take out everything that we've learned and just sort of redo it in a way that it can actually last for the future. But yeah, so it's like ideally if I had everything that I know now back then, it probably would have taken maybe a year and a half, 2 years, because this type of game isn't really that hard to make. It's like notes fall down from a screen and you hit it. You hit a key at the time, right? It's just everything associated with that, like UI and making a server and things like that. That's where the hard part comes in. So 3 years, about 3 years.
Gotcha. And here comes a more to the community stuff. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about this. Submitted by Tempissimo. What is your opinion on clans? And again, when will they become official?
I've answered this question like 5 times.
But, people really love clans in Quaver.
My opinion on clans, it is confirmed. It will happen. It's coming in the new website. However, there won't be a ranking system. It'll come later. But as far as opinion on clans, like I think my idea for clans, right? Like I do want to talk about it though. Um, when I think of clans and I think of the ranking system, I want to create an environment where people are sort of forced to play together, right? So it's
Right.
like imagine you have, you know, let's say a map, right? I always use this Camellia map, right? Like let's say Camellia Planet Shaper, right? The members of your clan will all play that map, and your score will sort of get averaged down together into one
Oh,
clan score, and
right.
then you can go and see other clans and how they've performed based on,
Oh.
on that map. So that's kind of my idea, and how I want to take that, to sort of add a ranking system to it.
Oh, I
But
see.
that'll come later as I figure out the details, and we have to figure out in-game stuff as well. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the idea that I'm thinking.
So it will be kind of like an actual clan war that happens between different clans
Yeah,
on
and I
Quaver.
yeah, I don't want it to just be like a group, right? Because if it was just a group, then we could have done that years ago, right? I
On
want it to
like
be
Discord and
actual,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I want it to be an actual like
Game mode.
proper system.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha. Alright, on to the next question though. Submitted by Epic Creeper. With QPVM facing shutdown due to server cost, QPVM being Quaver Player versus Map, developed by Ice Dynamics, are there any plans on implementing the QPVM game mode in game?
I actually didn't know it was shutting down.
Oh,
Did
right,
it shut
yeah.
down? What the
No, they
hell?
haven't shut down, but Ice did in the QPM server say that it's facing shutdown due to him having to keep the server up for like money stuff like that.
I see.
Hmm.
Um, well, as far as like implementing it in game, I don't know because I'm not sure how many people will actually play it, right? So it's like
Hmm.
if I'm adding something that big, I want to be sure that people are going to play it.
Right.
Um, as far as with QPVM, like yeah, it was popular for a little bit and people were playing it, but I don't think it really got that many updates, and I kind of just stopped hearing about it over time. So I don't really know how to gauge if people are interested in that on a larger scale, right? Um, but I do think like the whole concept of having sort of like a map recommendation system where it's like it recommends you new things to play. I think that concept is pretty cool, and something we could do kind of like a Tillerino, right? Where it's like it just recommends you new stuff to play. I think that concept is cool. But as far as like the ranking system that's associated with it, I'm not sure if people will actually play that.
Right. Yeah. Especially with the competitive game modes coming up. Well, oh, that might be coming up. Who knows? Like with the new game modes coming up in Quaver, and the development coming up, I feel like the more stuff that Quaver has, the less like attention that each game modes will have. So it does make sense to
Yeah,
like actually
that's the thing.
implement. Oh, sorry.
That's why I started removing some features, right?
Mm,
Because it's like if people aren't using those features, then I don't really want them in the game.
right.
Because I want to give maximum attention to the things that people are actually using and work on improving those.
Right. Yeah. And that reminds me of like yeah, what's actually the reason like what's the main reason like why jukebox was added back? Like I thought it got removed like for not people not using it. Like did like people riot
So
about it and
it
stuff?
was removed. So no. So it was removed
Mm-hmm.
um, at first because it kind of had a feature that I didn't want to maintain anymore that people weren't using. Like it had like a listening party feature, right? Like that was
Oh
something I
yeah.
kind of added where you can sort of listen to songs together, kind of like a Spotify, right? I don't know if they have that feature, but um, so when the new server, the new multiplayer server came out, because that's what also handled that was the multiplayer server. I didn't actually add that feature in, so I kind of just
Oh.
removed the jukebox. Um, and surprisingly, people actually wanted it back, right? So I'm like, all right,
Uh-huh.
let me just add it back. I didn't think people actually
Right.
use it like that.
Well, turns out
So
people
that's
actually
pretty
like
cool.
Quaver songs and want to listen to them.
Yeah.
Right, I
I don't
see.
know why they just use Spotify. You know,
I mean, well, there's
why
a
would you want
few
to be
good
able to
good
do that?
reasons as to why people use Quaver Jukebox over Spotify. The main reason being there's no ads. Definitely no ads in Quaver. It's free, and the main reason I
Not
feel
really.
like yeah, the biggest reason of them all probably is because most rhythm game songs aren't allowed on Spotify simply because of like copyrights, especially with like Konami songs on like Sound Voltex, JVM, and different arcade songs like that. Those are licensed, and those can't be on.
Yeah, SoundCloud.
I feel like I don't know. Are there? I don't think a lot of Konami songs are uploaded on SoundCloud, also because of like licensing problems. So the fact that Quaver allows like this feature to be added in with songs that can't be listened like anywhere else except for like YouTube, is quite a big plus for just music playing services in general. I feel like, yeah, that's probably the main reason why people use it.
I didn't know people actually listen to that type of music outside of the game.
They do, yeah. A lot of people.
I really thought that it was just in the game. Like, I don't listen to that type of music outside. You know,
there are a lot of people. Yeah, there are a lot of different rhythm game people that like genuinely likes rhythm game songs. Like people like songs by Psy, which is the creator of Freedom Dive. Yeah, people really like Freedom Dive. It's the most popular rhythm game songs of all time, and people genuinely, including myself, I do listen to rhythm game music like outside of playing rhythm games, simply because I like rhythm game music. It's just a good genre of music, and people actually like listening to them, which is why I feel like the fact that most of them aren't on SoundCloud or like Spotify and that kind of services that make people want to use Quaver Jukebox, which is probably the main reason why people like it.
Kind of reminds me of like that one meme. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like this dude in the kitchen in front of the stove where he's like kind of like pretending like he's DJing, and there's like
yeah.
That's what I picture every time when somebody tells me they listen to that stuff outside.
Really?
Yeah, it's like I just can't see it, you know.
I mean, it's music. A lot of people listen to like a lot of different genres of music. They listen to like, I don't know. They listen to rock. They listen to metal. They listen to classical music.
I get that, but it's like rhythm game music. It's like it's just different from every other genre. Like it's more like Japanese focused. You know, I don't know.
It's like it definitely has like a lot of different variation compared to different stuff. Like definitely a lot higher BPM because, you know, rhythm games being rhythm games, which some people like, some people hate. There's a lot of people that genuinely hate songs above like 200 BPM, which is the norm of rhythm game music. So it's definitely not a popular genre, but there are people who listen to it. Hell, people listen to like 2,000, 3,000 BPM song that literal like breakcore, like you know that breakcore sample. Yeah, the what's that called? The something break. The people in the video definitely. Amen break. Yeah. That it's literally that mushed into a 3,000 BPM song, and people listen to it. People love it. Which me personally, I don't understand, but apparently people like it.
Crazy. It's kind of like when you go in the editor, right, and then you set the BPM to like 3,000. It just sounds like, right? It's like
the metronome.
I can't.
The metronome just screaming at you, just crying out for help. Yeah, people listen to a lot of different music.
I'm more of a chill guy, man. I listen to chill music, you know, slower stuff. So
I mean, like talking about music, I'm gonna go a bit off topic here. Talking about music, I feel like Quaver is the most like varied in terms of music. Cause like if you look in other rhythm games, let's say for like licensed rhythm games, let's say for like Waka, Mai, Sound Voltex, that sort of stuff, it's mostly like Japanese rhythm game music. And when you look into like Project Sekai, that kind of like genre focused music, it's always just one genre, just folklore for Project Sekai. And Osu being Osu has a lot more anime Japanese focused songs as well. Whereas in Quaver, I feel like Quaver has a lot more like different variations of genres. I feel like you have metal in it, you have rock, you have classical music. You have, your typical rhythm game music. You have Daria Core, which recently came to life because of SV. You have K-pop, J-pop. You have Chinese music. Hell, how is that possible in a rhythm game? That's ranked. And But yeah, I feel like Quaver definitely has the most like variation and difference in different genres compared to other rhythm games, which I find is probably one of the main attraction of Quaver, just the different reach that it can have for like
Yeah,
different
and
music
you gotta
tastes.
think like the game itself, it doesn't really push anime content, right? Like
Mm,
that's not when you look at OSU, it's like animes everywhere, right? Like
mm,
that's on the front page. The mascot is anime, right?
mm,
Quaver, we kind of reduce that as much as possible.
mm,
And in turn, you kind of have it's sort of like a melting pot. So people come from OSU, people come from all these different games, and they have a varied, taste.
mm.
So I think that's partially the reason why.
Right.
The game doesn't force it on you, and people just come from all different, walks of life.
Right. And one of the main thing I like to ask, and like I'm gonna go off topic like last time here, probably, hopefully. Um, speaking of
Last time,
mascots,
man.
speaking of
Yeah.
mascot, I know a lot of people when they heard mascot and Quaver coming together in a sentence, they'll all be thinking of Quaver-Jang. And I just want to ask if Quaver-Jang is possible in the future. Is it a thing? Could it be a thing?
First off, I don't know who that even is, um, but probably not.
Uh,
Um, it would be probably if anything, it would be named something else. I don't want to Chan, nothing
hmm.
like that, man. We want to keep it. We're American. Well, I'm
Right,
American at
okay.
least, so I don't
Gotcha.
want to get into that territory because I don't know anything about that culture really. So
Right.
you know,
'Cause yeah,
probably be
definitely.
named Steve or something.
Ooh, okay. Because yeah, definitely a lot of people in the community are looking for like some kind of mascot that can represent Quaver and not just the Quaver logo or the word Quaver that represents it. Like your Osu has BP.
I love that
Your
logo, man.
the logo is nice. Like Quaver logo is nice. It represents the Quaver note, the eighth note
I,
of
I,
music.
I was surprised that I was reading the Discord and somebody did not know
Yeah, I saw that
that
conversation too.
somebody didn't know that the white portion of the logo is actually a Quaver note.
Hmm.
And the left side makes it a Q, like the whole thing
Yeah.
is makes it a Q. So I was surprised people didn't actually notice that, but that was the concept for it.
Hmm.
But
Right.
yeah, and
It's
like making the logo too, it was like I wanted something that was not like, hey, this is a rhythm game.
hmm.
It's just a logo where it's like it makes sense. It has music elements, but it's like
Hmm.
if we were to put it on a t-shirt, you
Hmm.
can go outside and wear that and not be afraid to be judged.
Hmm.
It's like if you walk outside with the OSU logo, no offense,
Oh.
like you're probably gonna get stared at. There's no offense to them, but it's
Hmm.
just we want to keep it, you know,
Like just
tame,
more
I guess.
general, more acceptable for
Yeah.
like yeah, that makes a lot more sense because I feel like no even the Oslo logo, I feel like I don't think a lot of people outside the rhythm game community knows about Osu. So even if you were to wear an Osu shirt outside, I think people would just be like, "Ooh, Osu, what kind of brand is that? I've never heard of that. It must be a new brand somewhere
Yeah.
else." Yeah,
That is true, but it's also
yeah.
I looked at like kind of the merch that they drop, and it is very like anime
Oh, really?
centric as well.
Oh, yeah, like the
Um,
plushies and stuff, and the badges, different
yeah,
sort of stuff.
yeah. So
Ah,
I don't know if I want to do that.
yeah.
That's just not my thing.
So would Quaver merch just be like shirt with the Quaver logo, cups with I don't know different
If we were
Quaver
to do it,
aspects?
bro,
Uh
like
huh.
I spent a lot of time, especially over the past couple years,
Mm-hmm.
into sort of like the fashion industry, mostly with shoes, as a lot of
Mm.
people probably know.
Yeah.
But it also clothing is also incorporated into that as well. So it's like
Mm.
if I were to do it, I would want it to be people or just apparel that people
Mm.
can actually wear outside um, without feeling embarrassed. That's like the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's
Right.
pretty much it.
Gotcha. Well, let's get back to the questions here. The last questions of the entire podcast. I did put this at last just to make it more, cinematic and all that sort of stuff. But submitted by Yokako on Reddit. do you like your game's community? Why or why not?
No. Thanks for watching.
All right, that's it for the podcast.
Nah, imagine, bro. I do like it. You know, like you said in the beginning, like I think the community for this game, out of all the rhythm games, bro, that at least I've seen, this one is the least toxic.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I think it's because of maybe how strict we are. You know, we tend to moderate. I don't want to say pretty heavy to the point where there's no freedom, but there's the middle ground where, you know, we do moderate it. And there's just certain things we don't tolerate. So that kind of brings out an atmosphere where it's not that toxic. And I don't think people want to be toxic at all. But it does get a little bit crazy sometimes. So I'm not saying it's like perfect or anything. But overall, I do like it, you know. And I wonder why that was even a question. You know, maybe it's because I'm not active. And the reason for that is mostly just because there's an age gap. You know, like the average player is probably like 15, 16.
Yeah,
right?
around that range.
I'm 27, you know? So it's like, what are we really going to talk about other than
Quaver?
You know, me developing the game.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm not going to talk about Minecraft. I'm not going to talk about Fortnite or whatever you guys play. I'm not going to talk about your memes. You know, I don't read the off-topic channel. I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I do like it though. You know, it doesn't make my head explode, so I think that's good.
Is that your bottom line? Just as long as something doesn't make your head explode, it'll be fine. Like you tolerate it.
Pretty much. If my life is simple, man, then it's okay.
That's a good that's a good way of life. I feel like.
I just try to keep it simple, man.
Fair enough. Yep, that will be all the questions for the podcast. Are there any final thoughts you would like to tell the people who stayed for 1 hour and 17 minutes into the podcast? Well, do you have anything you want to say to these people who listen through all that?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to reach out or ping me. Like if people are like scared to ping me and stuff. I'm not a scary person. I'm pretty chill. You know, sometimes I might, you know, bark at you if we're just joking around, but for the most part, I am a chill person. You can reach out if you want to do tournaments or anything involved in the game. You know, just ping me, ticket, anything like that. Other than that, you know, I hope y'all enjoy the game and you're ready for whatever's coming next, man. Because, you know, development has been more active in the past 4 months than it has been in the past 4 years. I will say that. So I hope you guys are following along, you know.
Right. And I guess that's it for the podcast. Thank you so much, Swan, for giving us your time and answering these different questions that can definitely help with the community getting to know more of you and the game itself, definitely. And thank you all so much for watching this podcast. This is the first episode of the Quaver Podcast. Definitely more to come, but having Swan here in the first episode definitely give me a lot of confidence in terms of this podcast and stuff. So yeah, thank you, Swan, for.
You should do more, man.
I should definitely do more of these like different content with Quaver. Yeah, thank you for coming to watching. Do you have any like different outros you want to do, or do you just want a simple goodbye? So
you're the intro guy, man. So you should be the outro guy. I don't.
All right, fair
bye.
enough.
I guess.
Well, I guess that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.